Hello everyone, I'm Xiao Gang. Let's write some code now. I took a look and it seems like we're missing a game here. Let's fill in that game and then we'll change the name. Because during my previous tests, I found that something was missing, so we need to make a small adjustment. We'll try to keep it consistent. After making this change, we'll delete it and ignore it. Okay. And originally, there was a red underline here, so we can just repetitive text omitted for clarity. This red underline will be fixed later. We changed something here. Let's restore it. Okay. Alright, okay. So let's write it like this for now. Then let's take a look first. See if it compiles successfully. We made a small change. This kind of modification is actually quite common when we develop on our own, making changes like this. But if you are designing for multiplayer development, if you modify it this way, sometimes it will cause some gate conflicts. Then we restore it to normal at this point. Right. We write a game word for it here. Then in the game mode, we need to do one thing, which is to specify the player we use and such things. But we shouldn't write it this way, because writing it this way is not convenient. You can see here, it is attached to his game mode. Then there is a detail that he pays attention to. That is, he defined how this game is played. This is the knowledge of gameplay. He controls the rules and scores of the game, and then it says how they exist in the form of this game. Who should join this game and how? It will only run on the server and will absolutely never be duplicated on the client. This sentence is very important. That is to say, whether you can understand this sentence depends on whether you have gotten started with online games in single-player mode. It is very normal for each level to have a game mode. If it's in a networked environment, then this game mode class will only exist on the server. So this statement is very important. And here it provides some APIs, right? So here you can specify which game mode to use. We won't go into that. We mainly look at these few classes. We need to specify which mode classes we use. That's this. Okay, our current project doesn't use this much yet, so we won't go through this place. We'll specify it directly through Blueprint. Just a note for everyone. Okay, we directly specify it through Blueprint. Then we start it now, okay, after we finish starting it. We create a game form folder here, specifically to store our game classes. Then we find FPC here, simple, then we should operate on it. We create its class. For this type of class, we generally follow naming conventions. We will write FPC here, simple, game mode. This makes it easier for us to search and use. Okay, after we create it, we specify it here. We use it as our game mode. We need to save everything, so it gets saved. Then here we have project 13, and here we specify our default global game mode. It is this one, and after creating it here, we separately create our player controller and our character. Since we already have one here, we can do it like this FPC. We create a player controller. We can call it BPFPC, simple player controller. It should be written like this. Let me check if this controller is spelled correctly. I put together an L and we need to add to it. There is a pitfall here that is yours. If you use gate to manage it, be sure to be case sensitive. Otherwise, some issues may arise. Then, at this point, we create the corresponding character. It should be him. Actually, if an interviewer asks you about gameplay, then you must be able to answer what game mode is, prior, what controller is, and the what character is, how they are architected and used in the engine. If you can't even answer that, then you basically don't meet the requirements for our junior developer position. Okay, good. Once the two of them are assigned, let's not write anything for now. Leave it for now. We are in the game mode. We will assign it. Okay, here. We select our player controller as this one. And for our character, let's check. It should be default Pong. Just select it as this one. Okay, this way we have completed the assignment and we have essentially finished this part of the work. Next, we need to create some enhanced input assets because we don't have any enhanced input assets yet. So we generally like to create an input here, input, then here we write something called action. Okay, all right. So we will create this input step by step. We call this place input. We first create this thing called input action. All right. The first one we create is this jump. We call it IA, then call it jump. It is used to map this input. Yes. All right. Let's take a look. First, it is a Boolean type. It seems there isn't really anywhere else to configure it. Okay, so there's no issue here. Next, let's continue creating the rest. Let's create a look and a mood. Let's create look input. Let's paste them here and rename them all. This one is for look. And this one is definitely for mood. And the last one is short. Let's go through and rename them one by one. This makes it more convenient. Okay, now let's look at this look. Let's save it first. As for this look, here, we need to select it as a 2D one because we need to map the mouse. There shouldn't be any other changes. Let's close it. Okay, next up is this. The wooden cabin. As for the wooden cabin, it is also a 2D one. So we need to change it to 2D here. Good. Then next, let's change it to a short. In short, it's actually a boar. So we don't need to change much. Okay, after finishing this, we will be at the place from the previous episode. We will create two sound tables. So let's call it implementing content context. These two contexts correspond to the first one called IMC. It is the default. That is our general default. And over here, this is the IMC. That is weapons. Okay, then inside the IMC, we need to handle the action. Let's assign some actions. So for our first assignment, let's assign our jump. Now that we can select the jump asset, we select a spacebar. As for its trigger mode, we can take a look. Just trigger it like this, because it's just a key press trigger. Okay, now that jump is assigned, let's assign the others. Next, let's assign move. This move, for move, it actually has 4 keys. So we add 4, like this, first, then double, and they all map onto this 2-dimensional data. So we need to make an allocation here. We need to add this modifier. Add a modifier. So first of all, we need to swap it. That is, we make it swap the axis value. We swap this value to that axis. Okay, so what does your W and S correspond to? Then yours definitely also needs to swap this axis. So we swap the axis here. And here we select the reverse direction because they are opposite directions. So for A and D, we don't need to swap the axes. We just need to pay attention to the fact that A here is inverted. Okay. Here, we don't need a trigger. You can see this trigger has many modes. That is, we can define more complex types. For example, hold or release, hold for a certain amount of time, etc. We won't set these up for now. As for this A, we just need to invert it. This way, we have set up the relevant mapping for WASD. Next, we need to set up the look. We haven't mapped the up, down, left, and right here. Will you WASD? We are used to it. This doesn't need to map this target. Already clicked wrong. This place has them stacked together. So we need to do it again. And then this side is the look. For the look mapping, we will need to select it ourselves here. Because this place is here, we click on mouse. There is a mouse, XY 2D. Something like that. Then, within this mouse, we need to add a modifier. We can see it here. We just add a negation to it. Okay, so in fact, this way we have completed a basic input response configuration table. Okay, so here we are. Let's come over here and also map this damage, meaning this weapon. Okay, let's add a weapon like this. Then we select short, and it is triggered by a key press. Then we click this here. Then click the left mouse button. That should be it. Because it is itself a key press trigger, there aren't any other extra things like that. And this short should have something like a trigger. So we need to add a place here. It should probably keep firing as long as the button is held down. So such a place. Then this is a 0.5. Then we place it like this in the movie. You will find that in this place, it will have a default trigger from input action. So this place is actually inherited from here. Inherited from here. So that's how it is. Okay, actually, many settings here. We haven't covered them in detail. If you want to make some more complex connections or set up multiple skills, then you need to study the enhanced input system in depth because, well, after we finish, we will have this table. Once we have this table, we need to connect it with our growth system and with our entire engine because they are currently doing it in the form of assets. So whatever asset you want to use, you need to complete a registration process at the appropriate time. Alright, next, after we have the asset, we can close it because now we need to complete the corresponding registration work. Let's go to our PlayerController application because we plan to manage this series of input mappings to the PlayerController. So first, in the PlayerController, we need to give it a protected variable. We just bring it over here. Then this place will point to our corresponding asset. Obviously, this needs to be forward declared. Because this is similar to other header files, then we need to use this asset. How do we use it? In BeginPlay, we just need to complete a dynamic registration. Okay, let's create its implementation. And first of all, remember, there is a detail here that must be called. You must call BeginPlay. You must call the. If you don't call this, a big problem will occur because if you don't call BeginPlay, the registrations in these places, these things, will basically be gone. If you don't execute these things, it will lead to some common problems, such as your blueprint not executing, the blueprint BeginPlay not executing. You can see because here, this function, reserve BeginPlay. This function means that the blueprint BeginPlay does not execute, and then your components don't tick, or some other issues. This place is missing. You will encounter this issue, then we are here. If it is called over, explained to him in this place. We need to include this. Same file. In this place we use the local player class, this form method to get the subsystem. This method, it is specifically for getting this kind of local player level subtop. And you see this subsystem, it inherits from local player at the subsystem level, and it satisfies this enhanced input system interface. So this subsystem needs to pass in a local player. This local player is the player controlling scheme. This local player is actually what we commonly refer to as the class for each player, right? You see, and there is an emphasis here. Look here, there will be 0 spawn, meaning it does not exist on a dedicated server. That is, only when the player logs in will there be this local player. On a dedicated server, the player may not have this local player. That as it itself says, it will not be spawned on the dedicated server. So you need to understand this. This is a very important concept, but it is relatively low level. So now you know that through PlayerController, you can get the local player. Then pass it into this method to get this, what we call the enhanced input subsystem. Then register this class. Then this thing can complete such a response. Okay, so now that we have this response, we need to open it. We need to specify this asset in our player control. If there is a compilation error now, we need to close this. It may not allow multiple editors to be open at the same time. This might also be due to leave encoding. We'd better turn off leave encoding. We'll just turn it off in a moment. Okay, so in this pair control section, here, after we double-click to open it, we can specify the movement asset we are currently using here. After we specify the asset, we click this. It seems that this currently cannot move. Right, it's also normal that it can't move because we are only doing this response mapping, but we have received the input. But we haven't clarified yet what work our input is. Okay, the next class we will continue with this input work and carry it forward. Okay, thank you everyone.